This lesson is comparing and contrasting the rhetorical styles of Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King Jr. First of all, what is comparison contrast? It's a way to analyze something by looking at similarities and differences. You must first establish a basis for comparison, and this is what they have in common. Then you select your points for discussion, and this is where they differ. And then, of course, you develop a thesis statement for the essay that you will be writing. In comparing and contrasting two texts, you are required to do an in-depth analysis, and then this sort of analysis encourages careful evaluation of the two texts, and it demands clear communication of findings, usually in the form of writing. We always keep in mind the rhetorical triangle, and you can see that the arrows are going both ways for all of these items. And all that is saying is this: when the speaker or the writer is speaking, then their ethos is being brought into play. And we see that through the subject or the topic that they are talking about, which is developed by facts or logos. And then, of course, that has an effect on the audience or on the reader. And that is pathos. That's the emotional appeal. So this is the sort of thing that you want to keep in mind when you're doing your comparison contrast. So how does style affect tone and message? All right, first of all, let's talk about diction. In King's letter, he calls the people he opposes segregationists. Carmichael, in his speech, calls the people he opposes racist, buffoon, and fool. King refers to African Americans as Negro, and Carmichael refers to them as black. And I want you to think of the connotations that we have with the word black. A high-frequency word in King's letter is disappointment. A high-frequency word in Carmichael's text is condemn. Think about the differences, the shades of meaning for those two words. So how does style affect tone and message? Details. Let's look at details. King refers to the Apostle Paul, God, Lincoln, Jefferson. Think about how you feel about those people. Carmichael refers to Camus, Sartre, and the Nazis. Now, you might not know who Camus and Sartre are. They're French writers that were writing around the time of World War II, and their belief was we're all in this world alone. Each of us is an individual. We're not connected in any way. Now, that's a very general estimation of what they were about. It would probably be a good idea for you to look up some stuff on them and read further. But King focuses on connections between races. Carmichael focuses on the differences between the races. Syntax, the way sentences are put together. Look at this one. While confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. Now just think about how sophisticated that sounds, how formal. All right? Carmichael. Oh, and for my members and friends of the press, my self-appointed white critics, I was reading Mr. Bernard Shaw 2 days ago, and I came across a very important quote, which I think is most apropos for you. He says, all criticism is an autobiography. Dig yourself. Okay? Very casual sentence structure, very informal arrangement of words. So, tying it all together, both authors are addressing the problem of race relations in the 1960s. That's what they have in common. King's message urges integration, Carmichael's segregation. The tone in King's letter is conciliatory. The tone in Carmichael's speech is very confrontational. The closing thought in King's, the radiant stars of love and brotherhood will shine over our nation. And then the closing thought for Carmichael is move over, or we're going to move on over you. So if you were writing a thesis statement for the compare-contrast essay, keeping in mind our method that we've used, the duct tape method, we're going to add a qualifier this time. Words like since, although, because, those are qualifiers. So remember that for a comparison-contrast essay, the two texts must have something in common. Whatever they have in common will be found in the dependent clause beginning with the qualifier. And then those words, of course, would appear again later in the essay. So we might have a possible thesis statement, although Martin Luther King Jr. and Stokely Carmichael both address the problem of racial equality in their texts. The message is quite different in each one. Their choices in diction, their syntax, and their selection of details create opposing messages and strikingly different tones. All right, so we've got our authors there. Okay, that's the T. And then here's what they do. They address the racial problem of racial equality, and the message is different. That's your claim. And then here are the directions. Okay, and your claim is that they create opposing messages, and racial equality is the universal idea.